we're episode 24 here, fellas. Trifecta Sports Podcast. Wrapping up the fantasy football preview talk. We've got the NFC West tonight. You have to pardon my voice a little bit. I'm a little bit under the weather. It's not COVID, I think. So we're going to pop up the NFC West here. We've got Frank, Coop, and DeVito, apparently. Did you change your name, Dave? Or was that a typo?
Yeah. No, that's what I wanted to go by.
No, it most definitely was not what you wanted to put on there. He's so mad.
No, it's 100%.
The last 8 minutes. the last 8 minutes of David's battle with his internet connections all the way in Illinois. I feel bad for you, buddy. Anyway, tonight we're going to talk about the NFC West. It's a loaded division with all kinds of fantasy football talent. I know most of you guys have your draft or coming up, or I've already had it. If you've already had it, sorry, we're kind of late getting this to you, but you're probably going to enter another league before now and the start of the season anyway. So here we go. We're going to start with, I'm going to pick tonight. We're going to start with the 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers, big news this offseason, appointed Trey Lance as their starting quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo sort of thrown to the wayside. You know, he's a guy that took him to a freaking championship game last year, and they're going to be like, hey, you know what? We don't want to play with you anymore. It's like, we got a new toy in Trey Lance. We're going to see what he can do. Before we get started in their depth chart, what do you guys think of that decision?
Some big news today. Jimmy G got a new contract with the Niners. I don't know if you guys saw that. It just came out.
I did not see that. That's brand new news to me. What the heck?
They signed him. They reworked him to a 1-year deal. He's the highest paid backup in the NFL now. So it looks like he's staying in San Francisco. So Trey Lance may have just got that leash shortened quite a bit. I think it was kind of a twofold effect. Primarily, nobody wanted Garoppolo or didn't want to pay for him. They were anticipating the cut. I think everybody knows that's what Seattle was waiting on, and it didn't happen. Secondly, Lance didn't look good in the preseason. That last game was not pretty. Just some bad decisions, really off-target throws. So I think this is kind of, shortening that leash that they have Garoppolo to go to make sure that they are in the playoffs.
Now that you mentioned that to me, it kind of opens my – I'm not a big Trey Lance believer. I'm not a believer in backup quarterbacks becoming starters until it actually happens. Quite honest with you, I wasn't a Jimmy G fan going to the Niners in the first place, thinking that he wouldn't do good at all, but he proved me wrong. So there's that. In my eyes, I don't see it in Trey Lance. He didn't play a tough college schedule. The same thing happened with Carson Wentz. He's mediocre at best. But at that point, you got a proven quarterback in Jimmy G that got you where you wanted to be. Taking a step towards somebody that's never started a game per se, or he might have started a couple, but not had to play the full season to get you to the same place is asinine in my opinion. Like, why do you think that's going to be any different? But that's the biggest news. People are taking Trey Lance pretty high in fantasy drafts, and I'm not quite understanding why. 2 quarterback leagues I can see because he's got a wad of receivers and weapons around him, obviously. Pretty much everybody on that starter list is going to be draftable in terms of fantasy league drafts. Deebo Samuel, a huge name. I would even say somebody like Ray McLeod might be a good pickup coming off of waivers and bye weeks later on in the season, depending on how they use everybody else. But one name for me on that list was Brandon Nyuk, that may come out of nowhere and have a really good season. He's had solid seasons from here, recently, but nothing like a breakout like Deebo did last year, but he might be a guy to look out for.
Yeah, there was some interesting stuff on Ayuk that came out this year. So he was a COVID rookie. They all had the weird offseason, limited reps. And then apparently in his first offseason, he came back and hadn't worked out. He was like, I thought that's just how they did it in the NFL. I think I had to work out. So he spent last year in the doghouse. Once he, Shanahan let him work his way back into his good graces and he got in shape. He was wide receiver 17 the second half of last year in fantasy. I think that if Lance stays a starter, which he should, that boosts Ayuk's stock a lot because Lance has a bigger arm, whether it be accurate or not. I think that he'll see a lot more targets than Deebo. So he's going to put up better receiving numbers if they stick with Lance for the season. We know they're starting with him. He's got a ton of draft capital invested in him. They really can't afford for Lance to fail. So I think Ayuk will at least have a good start to the year.
Really quick, as you saw, most of you saw, David just disappeared. If he wasn't on here when we first got on here, David's having some problems. So we're going to get the hashtag going. Get David good internet, please. Scroll it across the bottom. Please share. He's going to laugh when I put him back in here just now. Hey, welcome back, Dave. So if you can share our video on your Facebook Live or your Facebook page and use the hashtag Get David Good Internet, that would really help us out. You probably can't even hear us. Dave, you there, buddy? DeVito, nothing.
Just you're a bunch of robots.
Well, you just chime in whenever you want to talk, and we'll just shut up, okay? Nothing. Okay,
We'll
even
goes.
better. This is gonna be so fun. All right, Dave. Who you like? Dave? Let's see if he can get that. Dang it! Come on now, David. All right, we tried. Just keep trying, Dave. Anyway, Elijah Mitchell came on strong last year as a running back one for a lot of people. He's a guy that kind of came out of nowhere, but I picked him up in a couple of my fantasy leagues and helped me out a ton. I had some really crappy running backs, had a bad draft. When you get picked in the middle of in the draft order there in the snake draft, you kind of get left with some crappy people by round 6 or 7 when it comes to running backs. Finding somebody like Elijah Mitchell coming out of nowhere and putting on that kind of show for you will help you out. Is he on a league winner this year? I don't know. I do think he's going to be a good flex play on deep leagues, especially 10, 12 team leagues, especially if you're like ours who have pretty extended rosters and play multiple flex spots. But other than that, Coop, who else do you like on the San Francisco 49ers depth chart?
Just to kind of add to what you said about Elijah Mitchell, they don't have a good 2. They drafted Tyrion Davis-Price. He's not looked great this preseason. Trey Sermon went from, practice standout to possible cut candidate. We know Jeff Wilson Jr. is serviceable, but he's not going to eat into that work. So if Mitchell can stay healthy, like you said, at his draft capital, he's not going to be a league winner. He's still getting drafted as an RB2. But he could be a good value. You can get plus return on where he's at right now if he can stay healthy. I think he had 5 different injuries last year. He's banged up right now, hasn't played in the preseason. So, he's one of those guys, it's just running backs now. Like, it's hard to get through the top. Half of the top 24, you're talking about injury concerns or currently injured.
And he's back again.
I am downgrading Kittle.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of a common theme amongst a lot of people. Kittle as a top tier tight end is probably not is a thing of the past. He's probably tier 2 in most people's eyes down there, probably with the Hawkinsons, the Goddards, the Ertzes, those kinds of players. But taking Kittle in an early round draft is probably not ideal. If he's available with you with all those guys like Waller and or Kelsey and Andrews, and I would even say Hawkinson would be put above Kittle in my opinion.
In case you guys didn't know, this episode is themed. We're calling it the Blair Witch podcast. Dave is giving you the real-time camera angles. We got the vibrations and the sketchy backgrounds and empty rooms. So that's what we're going for.
Oh, he heard that. Oh, he's live, fellas.
I'm live, boys.
He's figuring something out. So
what I'm doing.
Let's do this so we can give the viewers a little bit different view of what's actually going on in this podcast. We see David's gargantuan hands in the picture. If you guys didn't know, David Hayes can hold like 7 or 8 baseballs in his hand at one time. I've seen him do it like 4 times. But he is in and out of the podcast because hashtag Get David Good Internet. Share again if you're on here. Share the video on your Facebook page and let's get the hashtag going. Get David Good Internet. Let's make it viral. As viral can be for 3 dudes who have a subpar podcast about sports. David, if you can hear us
going viral, you can hear me.
I can.
Messing with me?
I can hear you, but it was choppy.
All right. In time, going viral. Happy internet. I think I'll give it up. I'm gonna live in a cave and 40, 50 years.
All right, Dave. We love you, buddy, but you sound like a robot. You belong on an episode of Star Wars. You need to go get a whiteboard and write down your thoughts and names that you like for fantasy football, or get a piece of paper and put it up there on the screen, and I'll make it big for you.
Go Woody Page for us.
Hey, Woody Page style. Shout out Woody Page. Let's see what this says. It's backwards.
Yeah, you need to mirror your camera. That's in the settings, buddy.
It's backwards. Oh my gosh, this is so funny.
The next team in the NFC West.
Trey Lance, good. Oh, that's complete opposite of everything we said, Dave. I like that idea. Keep doing that. Dave is the, we'll call him a pantomime of the podcast today. If you're listening to us on Spotify, we'll see what he says now. He's got a paper holding up. He said, "What's new?" Yeah, we'll go with that. I'm loving it. Coop, you saying something? Go ahead with that thought, buddy.
Yeah. I'm in between you guys. I think he's going to be good for fantasy. I still think he's a fringe QB1. I'm probably taking him over Brady. I'm probably taking him over Stafford. Burrow and Rodgers is a little harder to get over that hump, but he's going to run the ball. That's what he's done. That's what he's always done. The thing with him was just lack of experience, and that's why they keep playing him in these games. He took 390 snaps in college. I think that was it. He's already taken more snaps in NFL preseason than he did in his entire college career. So, it's one of those Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields things where they're not the franchise quarterback that you want to win you a Super Bowl, but in fantasy, they're going to put up numbers because the floor is 500-600 yards on the ground if they play the whole season.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of agree with that too. Keith Hall sends another comment in. Loyal listener, Keith Hall. The Jackson 4 fantasy name. That reminds me of a cool topic we can talk about later on. It's cool fantasy football names for your teams. Appreciate it, Keith. Moving along with the rest of the NFC West, we're going to go with the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, dude. One of the top quarterbacks available in fantasy football right now. James Conner, for me, is sort of like a tier 3, tier 4 type running back. I think he's touchdown or bust. I don't think he's going to get many yards. That's just my opinion. He does score a lot of touchdowns. They target him in the red zone. They hand him the ball frequently. DeAndre Hopkins, we all know what he can do, but he is suspended. I can't quite recall how long he's suspended for, but he is going to be out for quite some time for a PED use, if I'm not mistaken.
6 games.
6 games. There you go. Hollywood Brown, new addition, stud, probably going to be a guy that you want to pick up. AJ Green, tried and true, old reliable. You could say he's a veteran of the game. One of my favorite all-time players, longtime Cincinnati Bengal. Not much of a fantasy guy, but you never know. He might have a uptick in targets this year. Somebody that you might want to just keep an eye out, because when it comes to fantasy football, drafting players in good offenses is always a good idea. In this offense, this is going to be a high-powered offense. They're going to score a lot of points, and they're going to have to spread the ball around mostly. They got weapons everywhere, and defenses can't cover everybody. So AJ Green might be the beneficiary of pretty much the weakest defender on the field covering him. It could be a linebacker, it could be anybody. So that's something you can look at in terms of the Arizona Cardinals. And Zach Ertz, probably a tier 2 tight end, in my opinion. Great career, just not the fantasy production you're really looking for to help you win a league. I don't think he's going to give you anything special. He's going to give you solid numbers in standard format, standard scoring. You might get anywhere from 10 to 12 points a game, in my opinion. Who do you guys like about the Cardinals? Anybody in that second team? Rondale Moore, maybe?
Yes, definitely Rondale Moore.
Rondale Moore is a big name that you can watch out for. Also a Kentucky kid. He went to Trinity High School. Did you guys know that?
I did not.
He lived in Indiana, but he went to Trinity High School.
Yeah, I think.
Coop, give us your intake on the Cardinals guys. Who do you like best?
James Conner, I think I'm a little higher on. I've got him right with Nick Chubb, David Montgomery. I think he's kind of in that tier of unmute Dave. He's in that tier of the last sure thing at running back. You know, those guys we know are going to get the work because there's nobody else there. Like Chubb's going to run the ball. Chicago's not ready to move on from Montgomery. He's still getting the volume. James Conner had 15 touchdowns last year, and Chase Edmonds is gone. So I think he's going to get a lot of usage. Like you said, Kyler's going to run the ball, so he may not hit 1,300 yards, but double-digit touchdowns is probably his floor in this offense. And I actually think that Rondale Moore picks up a lot of volume, both from Chase Edmonds and DeAndre Hopkins getting suspended. Christian Kirk's gone. He's in Jacksonville. You got Hopkins out 6 weeks. Their passing down back's gone, and Moore's kind of a gadget guy. He's got speed. He's shifty. He's like, 5'7", 5'6". I think he's in the Rondale and Wandale club. Those are the two guys that are late. You muted yourself, Frank.
Joke's on you, buddy.
Yeah, but I like Wandale, or I like Rondale late. Rondale Moore.
All right.
Oh, Dave, you're up. He can't talk now.
Can you hear me, Coop?
Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Sports Coop. We're now making this a solo podcast. I'm going one-on-one here. In Arizona, I think you also got Ertz. I think he's a back-end tight end one. He's probably in that 9-10 range. You're fine starting him in a 12-team league, but I'm not reaching.
I fixed it! I have a mute button on my audio interface because I coughed earlier and I forgot to press it. So, David, up yours, buddy. Sorry, Coop. Continue.
I was literally just eating airtime. We can move on.
That's so hard to do when you're out of thoughts. But yeah, Arizona Cardinals. Dave, you got something to say? Send it an email and I'll say it on air. Arizona Cardinals going to be a really good team. It looks like you're going to eat a corn cob over there, Dave. Cardinals are going to be a really good team in the NFL this year. I really think they can make a shot at a championship game. But other than that, we apologize for the technical difficulties. It's usually not this bad, we promise. So if this is your first time tuning in, don't shy away from us yet. Still, as you can tell, David's not here anymore. Share the video with hashtag #GetDaveGoodInternet and get that going. Let's get more people on the show to give us something to talk about. Moving on, we're going to talk about the Los Angeles Rams. Defending Super Bowl champs. They beat my Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl last year. Matthew Stafford coming out of what seemed like quarterback purgatory in Detroit. Welcome back, David DeVito, as we like to call you, for the fourth time.
Now?
We can hear you.
Yes.
But your lips ain't moving.
Oh, God, we're making... Well, I wasn't saying nothing then.
Well, you're delayed. Okay. Well, I can hear you. So just talk when you want to talk, and I'll shut up, okay?
Yep.
Cam Akers, big breakout year last year, coming off an Achilles injury. Really had a big time in the playoffs to help them. He's the pretty much the needle that pushed the groove for the Rams there toward the end of the season to help them get to where they wanted to go. Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp, needs no introduction. Top tier fantasy football player of all time. The dude's going to get his touches, and he's going to get his yards, and he's going to be targeted in the end zone. So if you got a chance to draft him in your first round, especially after those first 3 picks, nobody would bat an eye if you drafted him anywhere within the top 5, probably. Allen Robinson coming over from Chicago. Is that right? I believe I had him on my fantasy team last year. Van Jefferson, quiet name on this list, has a pretty big role in that offense, believe it or not, especially with Odell gone. And then we have Tyler Higbee, Western Kentucky University. Tyler Higbee. I like to give that shout out. Always for Kentucky kids. Maybe not born here, but played here. Bluegrass kid through and through. We like kids from Kentucky going to the NFL. I always keep up with those guys. But who are you targeting here on the Rams? We all know you're targeting Cooper Kupp. Who is he the guy that maybe nobody's thinking about? Anybody?
The only one I would – can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going for a guy. I don't really know if I trust Allen Robinson. He's had some quiet years in Chicago when he was the wide receiver 1 for them. Granted, it was a bad offense. The thing that I look for the Rams to bring him back in, I think everybody's just kind of waiting for that ACL to heal up. So I could see Van Jefferson kind of being that value in him. So I do believe Odell's going to be a Ram. Sounded like they all just kind of loved it. I mean, he crashed Sean McVay's wedding over the offseason. Sounds like if I'm a betting man, which I am, I will lose $5 betting on OBJ to the Rams.
What's it like being able to?
The year, so
What's it like being able to bet on sports, Dave?
Well, you know, it's pretty terrible whenever you throw $20 on Scotty Scheffler to pull out the Players Championship, and then you see a wedge into the crowd, and then get a beautiful bounce, and then see Rory again throw one into the freaking grandstands, and then he gets the most beautiful relief. Yeah, it sucks.
Hey, man. Shout out to the golf content. We love golf on this podcast. We will get further into that a little bit. We had some battles about live golf earlier in our podcast episode. So if you're interested in talking about golf, go back to our episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you stream your music and podcasts. We're on there. So go take a look at those. But like I said, sports betting is something that I would always love to do. I'm not going to be a guy that's going to bet, anything over probably $20 on anything because I just don't have it. I work as a teacher, so we all know how that works. But like betting on football for me, like daily fantasy sports is kind of like betting. I love it. I placed a fantasy sports lineup for NASCAR this weekend and came like 3 points away from winning $20. So it's pretty solid. Doing fantasy sports on golf and football and baseball is a little harder for me, I think. But daily fantasy sports, football, DraftKings, FanDuel, all that stuff is a good time. So if you ain't into that, hit me up, leave a comment. I'll DM you. I'll give you a link, and we can both get some free entries into some stuff. I'm sure Coop and Dave do the same. But the Rams' depth chart is, they're the Rams. Their offense is going to take away pretty much their offensive designs anyway. It's going to take away any deficits they have in terms of, I would say, anything in terms of, limited staffing, for lack of a better term. Tyler Bettman says, Bovada the GOAT. I bet on it all the time. I would like to know how. Do you have somebody that places the bets for you, Tyler? Because every time I get on something like Barstool or something like that, when I type in my address, it says that it's not able to be, done. And definitely, I will.
We're going to get some illegal content on this.
I don't care. That'd be awesome. You don't have to. He said, "I'll message you on Facebook." I like it.
How do we bypass SEC laws and regulations?
Hey, who cares? We have like an average. I don't know if you all know this, but I don't know why. I think it's just us getting presented to people because I think we're pretty entertaining. If you think so too, like and share the video. Hashtag Get Dave Good Internet. We have on average about 7 listeners on our podcast every time it uploads, which ain't bad, but especially for somebody small. And I think 2 of them are me because I do listen back to it when I upload it. I have to because I find mistakes and I have to re-upload it sometimes. But yeah, the Rams depth chart isn't. It's the Rams. You know, if you pick a Rams player, you're going to get production out of them. It's just if you pick the right ones.
Yeah, I would tread lightly with the running back situation. Daryl Henderson was an absolute fantasy stud last year. And then, you know, Cam Akers came in, playoffs, coming back from Achilles. I mean, what a freak. I think, what was it, like a 6-month recovery time on the Achilles. And Sean McVay came. So I'm not really sure what to expect there. You definitely have a timeshare at least. I mean, maybe Akers has the bulk share, but you got to give Daryl Henderson some touches. The guy's too good.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a better value with Henderson because of that. And they sat out Kyron Williams out of the 3rd preseason game. McVay said he didn't want to risk injury because he's going to have a critical role. I'm also a lot lower on this passing game. We're not talking a lot about this team got worse. Andrew Whitworth retired. Austin Corbett's on a different team now. I think he went to Carolina. Like Stafford has been in an off-season elbow rehab program for 6 months. Like there's some red flags here. Everybody talks about a lot of these receivers like aging out. Cooper Kupp's 29. I don't see that.
Hey, I'm getting ready to turn 29.
Yeah, and you aren't playing on an NFL roster.
I can run some routes. Holla at me, Sean McVay. I can run some routes.
I would love to. Sean McVay, please hit him up. I will fly out to LA and record every bit of this for the Trifecta Sports podcast listeners and viewers. Just so running
flat routes and 10-yard curls only, baby. No posts, no corners, no verticals. Flats, outs, maybe a 4-yard dig across the middle from a tight end slot. Yeah, that's me.
Middle screens is your only shot. 4 yards turnaround
from the guard position.
Yeah.
After the DN beats you off the line, you just turn around and catch the dump off.
No, he's the read man. He ain't blocking him. He's the read man. Let him go. But what a good time that would be.
I am a little low on the Rams. All that said, I think the passing game takes a step back. I'm having a hard time. Like, I don't have Cooper Kupp number 1. I think Jefferson's number 1 receiver.
I can see that.
Kupp's in the tier with Diggs, with Adams. I don't think there's a gap there. I think he's right with them. Allen Robinson is better than Odell. He's better than Robert Woods. This is the best quarterback he's ever played with. Like, he's got some touchdown upside. I think he's been a top 12, top 10 receiver multiple times, even in Chicago with terrible quarterback play. So I don't know. I'm fading pretty much this whole roster except for Robinson. He's the only one I'm higher than ADP on. And Daryl Henderson is definitely worth a late round look.
Yeah, for sure. Comment from YouTube.
You shouldn't don't disrespect Blake Bortles like that. The boat.
Yeah, where's he at right now, Dave? He's in the same spot I am. Probably on a couch watching TV. But comment from YouTube. Millie Mills says, thoughts on Julio Jones in the 11th round of the PPR league, boom or bust? I like drafting Julio Jones because he's on the team with Tom Brady. To me, quite honestly, he's more. I think he's a touchdown boomer bust. Let's put it that way. I don't think you're going to regret drafting him because I think he will show some value, especially early on with Godwin out. I do. We'll talk about it. We'll talk later about, in my opinion, who the busts and the sleepers are in terms of fantasy. One of my busts is on the Buccaneers, so stay tuned for that one. Coop, what are your thoughts?
Russell Gage also has not practiced yet, so that is a huge boost to Julio because we know that Tom Brady is the coach, general manager, and everything of the Buccaneers. He wanted Julio there. If there's anything on the field that resembles chemistry, he's going to stay on the field. So with those opportunities, like Frank said, with those injuries to those Godwin and Gage, if he has a good week 1, good week 2, then yeah, that's a steal, and he will be relevant as long as he's healthy in Tampa.
Yeah, I don't think they went and got him for no reason. I think they're going to plug him and play him right away, in my opinion. Do I know that for a fact? Absolutely not. Do we know anything for a fact when it comes to fantasy football? Absolutely not. Nothing is fact until it happens. But round 11 in a PPR, especially if you're in a 10-team league, I mean, you're round 11, you're getting pretty thin down there. If he's down there available, pick him up. What can it hurt? At most, you can drop him, pick up a waiver wire pickup just as good. That has just as much production. So really good question. Appreciate it, man. Moving on down to the last team of the NFC West, we have the Seattle Seahawks. In my opinion, this is a dumpster fire of a quarterback room. I can't figure it out. If Geno Smith is listed as a starter, and I think he's the best quarterback available for them, Drew Lock has no business being on an NFL roster. I said it. I would, Jakey Beeson had a decent college career. I'd probably put him ahead. But this is another T-Bell comment. He said DK is a bust this year. Honestly, I agree with you, DK. We had this conversation off air before we went on. I asked Coop, I'm like, if you're the Seahawks, if you're drafting Seahawks players and you have to pick a wide receiver, which one are you picking? And I'm picking Tyler Lockett. I think he gives you boom or bust, like we talked about with Julio with touchdowns. I think Tyler Lockett gives you the touchdown more than DK. I'm going to say it right now. It's a hot take, maybe. Tyler Lockett scores more touchdowns than DK, but neither one scores more than 10. So there's that. On any other team, you put these two wide receivers, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Noah Fant quietly could be a good pickup too. In my opinion, Rashad Penny is going to be a really good draftee for anybody. I don't know that their passing game is going to be all that great. I think they're going to have to do something out of the backfield, whether it's hand the ball off to him or throw it to him. But he's going to have a bigger role than what he normally has in the Seattle offense. So, thoughts on the Seattle Seahawks, fellas?
Dave, you compelled anything strong here?
Stay away from him. I think DK, he might get 3 catches for a touchdown, but I don't know. I think from a PPR standpoint, there's so much more value out there. Tyler Lockett might be a flex play for you, depending on how his and Geno Smith's connection grows. Fant, I can't believe the Broncos gave him up in that Russell Wilson trade, because I think if Russell Wilson had Noah Fant, we might be talking about a top 5 tight end. I feel bad for Noah Fant because he's an absolute athletic stud. So I don't know. Rashad Penny has been hurt pretty much every year he's been in the league, but carries, and Ken Walker III already has a sports hernia issue or whatever I don't know if they're saying anything on it yet, but one of the roughest defensive divisions in football. So I'm not drafting any of them. Frank, you can have DK in the 3rd.
So a couple guys, like I'm gonna pop Bryce's comment. Bryce is the one Seahawks fan that I actually know that likes the Seahawks and has liked them for always. So shout out to Bryce for that. He says Geno loves him some DK, and then T-Bell comments back and says I love DK also, but also when the quarterback isn't blind. If Russell Wilson's there, I'm trying to draft either one of them. But here's the thing: early on in the draft, these guys are going to get picked up. Let somebody else pick them up and get somebody just as good that for sure has a good quarterback on a good offense. You don't know anything yet with the Seattle Seahawks. And in fantasy football, you have to take with what you know. Don't mess with injuries. If they already have an injury, you're going to deal with that the whole time anyway. Take who you know is going to be in a good offense and who you know is going to get production, and you can't miss. Are you going to get the boomer bust weeks where maybe the guy you picked didn't, go off or something like that? Yeah, that's going to happen. That's fantasy football. But if you take the for sure thing, especially in the rounds that Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are going to be taken, they're in the top 6 or 7 rounds easily. And if they fall out of that, then yeah, grab one of them. But they're not falling that far. You can get just as good production, if not better, around the same draft position that those guys have.
Yeah, I think there's a right price for every player, right? Every player is draftable,
Right.
if the ADP is in the right spot. But I think DK is a little too high right now. I don't think Lockett's too high. I'm in that part of the draft. He's not the name that's jumping out at me.
Right.
If Penny's healthy, he's a steal. Like Dave said, he's never healthy. And same thing with Ken Walker. You got another rookie, always exciting, always question marks. And you just don't know if he's going to be on the field now. And Noah Fant has not been running routes in the preseason. I don't understand it, but he's not. Like, he's in the game and he's blocking on passing downs. So DK had, I think, 3 touchdowns in 4 games with Geno Smith last year. I'm going to call it a fluke. I don't think this season he's going to go out there and get 14 on that pace. But it's something to note that DK probably was Geno's go-to target in those games when Russ was out. But I'm with you guys. I'm not taking any of these guys, anybody from Seattle at ADP.
Yeah. So there you have it, fellas. The NFC West broken down by individual player, where you should take them. Should you take them? Should you not? But we're going to move on to a different segment for the rest of the time. We're going to give you I picked one of each, and you guys may have more. But the sleepers and the guys that you think are going to be absolute busts this year for fantasy football. Okay. I'll go first with the bust, if you guys don't mind. And my bust this year is going to be Tom Brady. Simply because, don't look at me like that, Dave. I know what you're thinking.
I'm on board with this one.
Hashtag get David good internet. And I'm gonna let Coop talk about you to you guys that are out there listening. If you haven't watched us before, we have a straight up, what do you call it? I'm blanking on the word. The situation brewing in Florida. But anyway, conspiracy. That's what it is. It's a conspiracy theory. Coop has a conspiracy about Tom Brady. It's hard running the show and thinking off the top of the. I don't have nothing written down, fellas. But anyway, that's exactly right, Tyler Bellamy. That's exactly why I'm picking Tom Brady as my bust this year, is because their O-line is so beat up. They lost all 3 interior linemen, and one of them is coming to the Bengals, by the way, and has shown out. He has Godwin hurt. You talk about Gage not practicing. He has Mike Evans and a really old Julio Jones who hasn't really done much, but he's still Julio Jones. He could do a lot. All the drama, him missing preseason camp, who I think I have my suspicions as to why that is too. I think he's on Dancing, or not Dancing with the Stars, but The Masked Singer. Have y'all seen that before?
Did
y'all know that show
last week?
Did you say that about The Masked Singer?
Family. Maybe I didn't bring it up on here. Yeah.
I've read that somewhere. That's the conspiracy behind that particular instance, but. It just so happened they did play the Miami Dolphins that week that he was out, and Coop can ramble on about why that's a part of his conspiracy theory. But Tom Brady is my bust. I'm not drafting him as a quarterback, even in our 2-quarterback league, unless I absolutely have to. I don't think he's going to get to the point where I have to pick him because he's the last one available because I had the first overall pick. By the time everybody gets back around to me when I need him, he's not going to be there, I don't think, especially with the hooligans that draft in our league. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Derek Talby, if you're watching. But yeah, Tom Brady's a bust. I don't think he's going to be – he might slip into the top 10 in terms of overall production for fantasy quarterbacks this year. That's my opinion.
How is that a bust? He's 45.
But he's not – he's Tom Brady, David.
Hey, everything is relative to ADP, right? When we talk about bust and sleepers, we're not saying this guy's going to be out of the league.
Right, yeah. I'm not saying that he's going to suck. I'm saying he's not going to perform to where people are drafting him.
Exactly.
Right.
There's going to be 10 quarterbacks better. If you've got a 10-person league, why are you drafting Tom Brady? There's 10 other people better.
Well, because he's Tom Brady.
Exactly, and that's why he's a bust.
He had a losing season other than when he was hurt or suspended.
That doesn't matter.
Fantasy points on the board.
I mean,
no.
Guy,
you handed off to Leonard Fournette.
If you're saying he's going to be a bust, and he's ranked at 8th, and you're saying he's still going to be in the top 10, that's not a bust. That's just a 45-year-old man playing with some kids. I think it's a stretch. I've bet against Tom Brady. I learned my lesson. Never do it again.
We've already talked about
you
Dave's.
look like an idiot.
Here's how Dave's betting woes goes. Dave spent a lot of money. I would say what $10, $15 at the beginning of baseball season betting against the Cincinnati Reds. So for them to lose. And this is when they were like 0-8, 0-9. He would bet on them to lose, and they would win every single game that David bet them to lose. That's how David's betting woes goes.
Yeah.
So when Dave sent me a picture of his bet placing it for the Cincinnati Reds to lose, I knew we were going to win that day. But yeah, Tyler Bellamy, he's all me and him on the same page. O-line being beat up is the key to this argument. I just think he's going to get hit. I don't want a guy to get hurt, but this might be the year that Tom Brady doesn't make it through a whole season. That's part of the reason too. Like, you got to think about that. Like, if he's healthy, yeah, he's probably a top 10 quarterback still. But is he going to make it through the season? You take the for sure road with somebody else. Not for sure, because nothing's for sure. Nothing's absolute in fantasy football. We all know that. # Christian McCaffrey. But other than that, that's my bust. Who do you guys got?
I want to keep going on Brady. Explain this a little better.
Because I didn't explain it good enough. Coop, give me some numbers.
No, not that.
Give us some numbers, Coop.
I mean, like you said, they went through 4 interior linemen because the backup center now that's replacing Ryan Jensen from his season-long injury has been banged up in practice now. He got carted off once, turned out to just be cramps. I believe he's hurt again. Both guards completely gone. One retired, like you said, one's in Cincy. Gronk was a great blocking tight end, like up there with the George Kittles of the world as a do-it-all guy, true tight end. He's also gone. The targets that he has are not the weapons he had last year, coming off injury. Leonard Fournette's coming in, 30 pounds overweight. And like you said, name a quarterback that went to the Super Bowl after voluntarily taking 2 weeks off in the preseason.
To go sing on a TV show with T-Pain.
Yeah, and the reason for that rumor, Tom Brady signed a big 10-year deal with Fox, right, as a color analyst.
Yeah, we talked
Joe
about
Buck, also a color analyst, has been on the show before. And apparently contracts are signed in the summer when he was retired. But that's the theory there. That press conference he had the other day, did you guys see that?
Mm-mm.
He was asked about it.
A lot of shit going on.
Yeah, I'm 45. I got a lot of shit going on. Like, that's not Tom Brady.
I can say this. Well, I think he's tuned out of football. I think he was asked to come back so maybe he could fake an injury in the first game of the season and get the number 1 overall pick for the next draft, and then the Buccaneers can draft their next franchise quarterback.
Oh, he should have stayed away if they want to do that. They just start Kyle Trask.
But nobody would come to the games if he wasn't there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he's kind of over football.
That's a total bullcrap answer, by the way, Dave. I know you don't think I'm serious.
I know you're serious, Frank.
I'm totally not. I'm kidding, David. You gave me that look. It was like 3 seconds too late, but you gave me that look. # get David good internet. Share the Facebook video now. Hashtag it with # get David good internet. Anyway,
all right,
that was
I got my bus.
All right, Dave, go ahead while you're still on.
This one is just to spite Frank.
He's gonna give Joe Burrow
Jamar Chase.
Okay, I'll go with Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase.
I agree with that, David.
Looking at his last year, 68 receptions, 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. It's not just a one-time thing. It's happened to multiple people. I think you got T. Higgins. You got – I'm blanking on the other dude's name right now.
Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd. You got Joe Mixon. I don't know. I just feel like teams are going to take him away or try their best to take him away. He still might have a decent year. He's not going to be top tier. It's just not possible, in my opinion. I think he's a great wide receiver. He's a great talent, but 68 catches and 11. DK had 15, or he had a great season last year, and he had 64 catches for 850 yards and 9 touchdowns. I think that's more realistic games. Jamar Chase rip off 3 catches for 180 yards and 3 scores. So,
yeah, when we talked about the Bengals a couple weeks ago in our little our division preview, I mentioned Jamar Chase probably not having the same type of production as he did last year. I think that's a good pick as being a bust. And to remind everybody, what we deem by definition as a bust is somebody that you pick expecting to do these great things that doesn't end up doing these great things. That doesn't necessarily mean they don't do good things, but they're not going to carry your team to a championship. And Jamar Chase is a great quality or a great candidate to fall into that category, especially with the weapons that Joe Burrow has around him and the way the defenses are going to scheme against the Bengals. Because, in my opinion, the world is out to get the Bengals. You see what the AFC did with getting all the edge rushers back in town. So there's that. I think that's a good pick for a bust, Dave. Coop, you got one, or you going to piggyback off of Tom Brady?
No, I got another one. I'll go Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
Not putting up wide receiver 7 numbers, and kind of not anti-Tua, but we're sitting here talking about DK's not draftable because of Geno. Yeah. Is Tua that much better than Geno that he can have 2 top 20 quarterbacks? Like, I don't think there's that big of a disparity between Geno and Tua. Like, he doesn't have the ability to have 2 guys produce this high. You've got
I don't think so either.
ADP, Tyreek's at 7, Waddle's at 18. I think they're both a lot closer to each other. If they're in the top 20, it's going to be like 19-20. Like, they're not going to be Chase and Higgins. They're not going to be top 10, 12 receivers.
Yeah, I see all kinds of videos of Tua underthrowing a lot of people, T-Bill.
Yeah.
Somebody said that, damn, didn't know we were throwing 50-yard curl routes up in here. But, yeah, there's that. I think Tyreek Hill is a great pick for a bust. And like we said, great player, probably going to have pretty decent numbers and might have a game where he scores 2-3 touchdowns with 150 yards receiving. Just don't think it's going to be as consistent enough as we think week to week. And that's what it takes to win a fantasy football league is you got to have week-to-week production. You don't have to have week-to-week outbreaks of, 30-point games by receivers and running backs. You need everybody to score in the 20s with whatever your scoring system is. You got to keep up with everybody else position by position with your opposition week in and week out. And when you get to the playoffs, it's even harder. Late in the season, all your waiver wires come into play. Trades that you made throughout the season come into play. These guys that we're talking about may be great trade candidates for early on in the season, depending on what you see the usage is for those quarterbacks throwing to these certain receivers like Chase and Hill. So moving forward, keep that in the back of your minds too. I know I'm going to whenever, I'm drafting for one, I'm going to make sure that I'm drafting people on good offenses, regardless of what, sometimes their ADP does come into play. But when you get in the mid rounds, sometimes it doesn't. It's all about a gut feeling, in my opinion. But any other busts you want to get out of the way? Deebo Samuel, you think it's going to be a bust? Yeah. I don't think that's a good pick too. I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to cut you off, but he's not going to have the same role as he did last year. He's not going to be forced to do the same things he did last year. And I think that's more of everybody on his team being healthy again rather than him being a talented football player. He's going to be receiving the ball. He will get time in the backfield again just because I knew it worked, but he won't get the same all-around production as the center focus of the team anymore, in my opinion.
Yep, he led the NFL in fantasy points over expected last year. So, based on your usage, you have an expected amount of fantasy points you should score, and nobody had more over that expectation last year than Deebo. His efficiency was just out of this world. I mean, higher than Jamar Chase, and we're talking about him being a bust as well. And Deebo's, a few years older. It took him a while to get going, and he just had so much rushing volume. He can't duplicate that. Yeah.
And just because we're saying these guys are busts don't mean they're undraftable. it's sort of like, okay, you're left with a decision to make when it's your turn to pick, and you got a guy that's surefire, consistent year in year out with a quarterback that he's been with forever against a guy just as good, puts up same numbers around the same ADP. You might need to think about the choice you want to make, and do I want to go with the surefire thing, or do I want to take a leap? Dylan Davis says draft players on bad defensive teams. I like it, especially wide receivers. You know why?
Jets, baby, let's go.
Oh, no.
Elijah Moore, Dave. He's right there for you. First round. You got him?
Is that your sleeper, Dave? You starting us off?
Wilson, baby.
Is that your sleeper?
Oh, it's not my sleeper.
All right. So let's hit up sleepers really quick while we still got a few minutes on the show. Again, we've had quite a few people hang on and stay with us today. I want to thank you for one thing. We're doing this live every week, hoping to get our brand out there and keep growing a little bit, and giving us a little bit of fun and interaction with the audience. You don't really get that on YouTube unless you get great traction and get lots of views. If you're on here and you're on YouTube, go subscribe to our channel. And if you listen to podcasts in your car, at work, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Go and download our episodes as well. Our very first episode we ever put out has done the greatest of any episode we've ever done. I think it's because it's brand new. Everybody saw it and everybody clicked on it and stuff like that. But it is a pretty good one. We did an NFL awards show, and it's kind of coming back. This is hilarious. I'm putting this up here. But anyway, it's coming back now. So if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to us before we end the show. Really quick, another comment from YouTube. Second comment from YouTube tonight. 2 comments from YouTube tonight. Very first time ever. Ryan Cummings said, should I trade Naji and Pitman for Jefferson and Connor? PPR redraft. That's a good question. I like Naji and Pitman. I think if it was anybody but Connor, I would probably say yes right away. I think you get more. You would?
I would Jefferson and Connor. Because I think Jefferson is my 101 in PPR. Naji just came off saying he's had a sprained Lisfranc. That's huge. Lisfranc's a year. And it's not surgery level, but to come out and say that, and then watching that offensive line in preseason, it was sack, holding penalty. Like Pittsburgh, their O-line looked terrible. I love Pitman. He's a top 10 receiver for me. He's not Justin Jefferson. And like I said,
I agree with that.
James Conner, if anything, is going to get more usage. Edmonds is gone. Kirk is gone. And he's got double-digit touchdown floor.
I agree with some of that, Coop. Without the Naji injury history, I don't take this trade, I don't think. I think Naji is going to be one of the best running backs in the league. He's going to be dependent upon. He said he's going to carry the ball 30 times a game if he has to. We all know running backs are a dime a dozen, and they have issues sometimes when it comes to durability. But who's to say James Conner won't have the same issue? But T-Bell says absolutely not. Agrees with that's something I would have to do a lot of extensive research on. That's a great question. Appreciate the question, Ryan. I hope we answered it. Coop he's won our fantasy league like 4 years now out of the 8 that we've done it.
Why you got to bring that up, Frank?
It's not happening again, David. Me and you or somebody's. It might be Chaz, but somebody's winning.
I wanted this to be a surprise, but I actually ordered a title belt this week. I'm hoping it'll be here by draft day.
You was talking about the Lisfranc injury, and Dylan Davis asked if you were talking about Anne Frank. No, but it does sound. I'm not saying that. Never mind. Another comment from YouTube. We have Brett Francois. Is that correct? I hope I didn't butcher that name. 10 team PPR: Lamar, Eckler, Mixon, Keenan, Marquise Brown, Kittle, Zeke, Rashad Bateman, Hopkins, Lazard. That sounds like a pretty good team to me. Any changes I should try to make to improve besides quarterback 2? Quarterback 2. Who did you have as quarterback 2? I don't know.
Have anybody?
Yeah, he didn't list the quarterback 2, but I like the team. I think you got 2 really good running backs and obviously a top tier fantasy football quarterback there. Rashad Bateman's going to be big for the Ravens. I think he's going to be the number 1 option. Other than, I think Andrews is going to have a down year too. Yeah, he just commented he doesn't have anybody at quarterback 2. But, I think quarterback 2 for me, guys, is just it's one game. It's 1 week, barring injury. But that's all you got to think about. I like that team, honestly. I would take that. You got Zeke, too, as well. 3 good running backs. If Zeke has a year, he's got to have a breakout year very soon before people start giving up on him altogether. He's not even the best running back on his team, in my opinion, right now. But he's him and Dak are like this. I think both of them together, that he's got to do something fairly quickly and fairly like right now quickly, or people are going to forget about him. But other than that, let's look at this again. Who do you guys? I like all these guys. Good bench.
Yeah, I really like.
Coop loves Cole Kmet.
Yeah, that's a great pick. There's nobody else to catch the ball in Chicago except for Mooney, and we saw it in the preseason. Fields was looking for him, and Fields looked pretty good in this last game. 3 touchdowns by halftime. I really like the stack, Lamar and Bateman. I know it's not a thing a lot of people do. Even in redraft, I'm a fan of the stack. You get double the points if they hit. My only critique is Marquise Brown and Hopkins. I think you really limited your upside second half of the season because if Brown's good early, Hopkins is good late, I think it's going to hurt. It's going to bring Brown down in that second half of the season. The playoffs is really where you're going to peak. Other than that, I like it. I think Zeke coming off the bench or in the flex is fine. Lazard has huge upside. So.
Yep. Yeah, loving the comments, guys. We appreciate it. We're going to move our weekly show to Monday nights at around 9:30 due to football starting, and we're going to move into Monday Night Football a little bit, but we can get you caught up on the game as well. While you're sitting on the couch watching football, you can throw us on Facebook Live. But we got 3 minutes left, and my computer currently has 11% battery, so we're going to wrap up the show with our sleeper picks. Oh, heck yeah. Appreciate it. Hitting y'all with the sub, like fantasy shows, multiple people to get a variety of opinions. Have a great night. We appreciate you, Ryan. Lots of love, dude. We need it. Share us with your buddies as well. We're not experts about anything, but we like having fun about fantasy football. We do a lot of work looking into it and doing a lot of things like that. So we put a lot of effort in our shows. It may not seem like it. We like kidding around and goofing around, but this is something we love to do. We really like to make it something happen. So, yeah, no problem, Brett. No problem, man. Appreciate it. Bryce says sleeper is Rashad Bateman. That's a good pick, Bryce. New sub from Millie Mills. Same here. Y'all got a new sub with me. Appreciate it, brother. Hit us up with your friends. You got questions, drop them in the comment box below on the video when I upload this to YouTube probably tomorrow. Again, appreciate the sub. Spread the word. Really quick, wrapping up the show with our sleeper picks. My sleeper pick is going to be Damien Pierce from the Texans, simply because the Texans got to have offense somewhere, and I don't think Davis Mills is going to do it in the air. So they're going to hand the ball off to our boy Damien Pierce. He's back and forth on a lot of if you look him up on Google, I mean, people are off and on about him. I just have a gut feeling there's always one player on a bad team that has a breakout year. I think I watched a video last week about last year. It was Amon-Ra St. Brown that nobody really thought about. They picked him up late in the year, had a monster season late in the year, and then all of a sudden they win the league with him. So I think he's a league winner. He might be a flex spot in your league winner, but he's somebody you might need to target late in the rounds. He's being picked up. I don't know what his ADP is, Coop. You have that on hand?
35. RB 35.
So he's, obviously, I would say lower tiered quarterbacks being taken in the draft. He could be a steal you get late if he's, passed up on. But if you've got him with, 2 or 3 picks left in your draft, there's no hurt in taking him. He's going to probably end up being the starter down there on a bad team, really, but he's got something there with him. So Damien Pierce of the Texans is my sleeper pick.
Yeah, I'm going to go Christian Kirk in Jacksonville. We were down on him. He was nothing but jokes when he signed the big contract. Like, oh, Jacksonville really got a wide receiver 1. But he came out and had 8 targets in less than a half a play with Trevor Lawrence. And volume, especially in PPR, is huge. So, I mean, you're looking at a guy that has 140, 150 target upside with really no competition for targets in that offense. So I think that a lot of people, they say follow the draft capital, follow the money. He did get a huge contract, and Christian Kirk is somebody that is climbing up my draft boards. I've already talked about this guy in a previous week, but I got to throw A.J. Dillon in here again. You guys aren't high enough on A.J. Dillon. I've got him up to RB 18. He's inside my top 20 now. I just keep moving A.J. Dillon up, and I can't stop. I've got a problem.
He's on the rise, ladies and gentlemen. We have Millie Mills talking about James Cook being a sleeper, and then T-Bell with a comment, Isaiah McKenzie taking over the Cole Beasley role in Buffalo. Isaiah McKenzie is a name being thrown around a lot in a lot of podcast episodes that I've been listening to as well. So, Dave, wrap up the show for us. Who you got as your fantasy football sleeper of 2022? Hashtag get Dave good internet.
Wide receiver. He's been historically good. Devante Parker. I think
I like
him
it.
and Tua just didn't have that connection down in Miami.
Kentucky kid.
Looking at it, and he averaged 11.5 fantasy points a game in PPR. And that's with, Tua and Waddle having their amazing connection last year. He's going into number one. I'm blanking on the quarterback's name, but they're going to throw the ball a little bit. I think
Mac Jones?
Parker is going to – I think he fits – man, I just have a feeling that he's going to be a good target. He might not be a 8-9 touchdown guy for you, but right now they've got him listed at like wide receiver, something like that. So I think there's an absolute steal in the late rounds where you're looking for, a potential flex guy that I think he's going to be. I think there's going to be tremendous value there where the Patriots finally got a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick at all. The Patriots, Mac Jones is a very talented quarterback. Made it into the NFL top 100 voted on by the players. Tom Brady finished number one, which I think is complete trash. I think that's more of an ode to him leaving finally and them kind of giving him a correct send-off. But he's not a bad quarterback by any means. I think he's very capable of winning football games for the Patriots, and he's got to have somebody to throw the ball to because that's what he does best. Two very capable running backs behind him when Ramondre Stevenson. Sorry, fellas, it's real late. And Damien Harris, also a Kentucky kid. So you got two Kentucky kids on the same roster in the NFL. That's kind of cool in my opinion. But that's definitely somebody to look out for. He is going to be available probably after your drafts, in my opinion, in some leagues. Somebody that you can put on your watch list. If you're a 12-team league, maybe not. But 8 and 10-team leagues, he's probably not even going to get drafted in a lot of those. But somebody you can put on your watch list, look for him maybe a couple of games in and see what his target rate is like, and maybe he's a good pickup. Again, fellas, it's been real. It's been fun. We have had a lot of communication from our audience tonight. We appreciate all you guys staying tuned and listening to us. We've been on here for an hour and 3 minutes. Again, we're going to be on every Monday night around 9:30, depending on if we can get our technology to work. Hashtag get David good internet. We do have one last question on YouTube, and I am going to answer it because that's just the kind of guy I am. How are we feeling about Deontay Johnson?
As far as the injury from the preseason game, I'm not concerned. Again, it's the O-line in Pittsburgh. I think if they can throw the ball, he's fine. He's still right around 20. I might move him down to like 21, 22, but he's still an RB2 or wide receiver 2 at the worst, in my opinion. I don't think there's any injury concern from that game.
Yeah. Apart from the offense as a whole, in terms of skill players, we are really high on all the Steelers. In my opinion, the Steelers are going to be a really good team. Some people pick them to win the division. It breaks my heart because I'm a Bengals fan. But the quarterback situation there has me flustered. I don't know how Trubisky is going to do. The competitor in me wants him to do well, but the Bengals fan in me wants him to suck ass and not play well at all, and then end up somehow getting all the way down to Mason Rudolph. Don't think that's going to happen, but there's a possibility. There's a hope. So appreciate the comment, man. Leave a sub if you want to hop on to us next time. Rosario, we'll call you. Make sure that you subscribe, and we'll be on here again Monday night next week about 9:30. Thank you guys for tuning in. Love the interaction with you guys. Again, if you want to share our video, hashtag Get Dave Good Internet. We've had a good time today. Dave finally figured it out. Little delayed there, but we made it work. We love Dave. We couldn't do it without him. Pivotal part of the trifecta. That's where the three comes in. We can't do it with two of us.
Hey,
again,
one quick call out before you
Go ahead.
draft. Alexander Madison is being shopped by the Vikings.
That's
If
good
he
to
lands
know.
somewhere, it could be a league winner. So if you got a draft before that trade happens, it might not, but use that last pick in the draft on Alexander Madison.
Yeah, not a bad pick. Thanks, Coop. So you guys hung it on there at the last minute. We appreciate it. Alexander Madison, pretty good pickup. He's getting shopped around. If he gets traded, probably immediate starter somewhere else. We're going to go ahead and get off here. My computer is at 5%. I think we did a good job, fellas. Thank you, guys. We love you guys. Make sure you tune in next time. Share us with your friends and subscribe on YouTube. Peace.